Hey Brian, good morning.
Morning, Nico.
How are you?
Just stellar.
Yeah, Danny, what's up? Hey Brian, I haven't been able to find much documentation or like to test images with the capybara, and I try different ways. Like I have a multiple sources, including the API, the documents, right? In what do you call those API doc, and I can get it. I cannot get it to work. I can see the image in Rails S, right? But I can't get it to pass my capybara. So somebody maybe like at some point today can get some help on that, or
Yeah, I think this is a good thing to ask in the code help channel, because I think other
Okay.
people are going to run into this as well.
I'll do that. Yeah. Thank you.
We've got another minute before we start here. If you haven't already, go ahead and check out the cohort channel. I put a message in there, and I had a survey for you to tell us what user story you're working on in the project so that we can make check-in groups. So if you haven't done that, go ahead and fill that out real quick.
Sorry, Brian, I just got here. What did you say we need to fill out?
The survey in the cohort channel, I posted an announcements message. It's the first bullet in that message.
Okay, copy that. Thanks.
Yeah, it looks like we've got about 19 right now.
But also, like, what's the standard for that? Because, you know, a lot of us have like finished but no test, or finished with tests, you know.
Yeah, it's a little fuzzy, like if something is like half finished. I think just like whatever you're working on currently. Yeah, I don't have a good answer for that of like what constitutes finished. Just because the project is so new and there's probably some things that need to be cleaned up with all your projects. So one more time, if you haven't seen it yet, in the cohort channel, I sent a morning announcements message. There's a survey. It's the first bullet in there. Go ahead and open up that survey, and you just have to type your name and the number of the story that you're working on. All right, thank you. The last couple of people. All right. So what I want to start with is the checks for understanding from the How the Web Works lesson. I'll go ahead and share this. There we go. So at the end of this lesson that I had you read yesterday, there are these 3 questions. So I want you to take a second to look over your notes and think about these questions, and then we're going to get some answers. All right. Let me share my desktop instead of this app. And let's go ahead and go over these. So for this first question, what are the parts of an HTTP response? There's going to be 3 parts. So can I get someone to give me the first part? And what I'm going to do for this class is I'm going to like take notes in this Google Doc. Let me actually share this out for you so that you can follow along if you'd like to. Yes, I'm going to be taking notes here. Anyone with a link? And view. There we go. I'll drop this so you can have these. That's not what I wanted. Okay. My notes should be in the cohort channel now, so you can follow along. All right. Let's get some volunteers. Phil, can you give me one part of an HTTP request? Oh, Phil is having internet issues, I think, actually. Let's go to the next student. Alex. Do I have an Alex here?
You do, but I'm not sure where he's at.
You just
You stepped away for a second. Alex, you got called on, buddy.
All right, let's go to Austin.
Are you there?
Alrighty. The first part of the HTTP request was a request line.
And Austin, do you think you could give me the parts of the request line?
Yeah, I did not. Wait.
We can bump to someone else if you don't have it.
No, I got it. I just had to go back to another page. So one of the parts of a request line is the HTTP verb. The other part is the URI path. And then the version of the HTTP protocol.
Yeah, HTTP, HTTP version / protocol version. I'm not sure what the absolute technical term is for this, but it doesn't really matter. So we've talked about verbs and paths a couple different times in a couple different ways this mod, and now we're getting into where does this actually appear? What does this actually look like? If I go back to this is the same thing. Let me use this one for my curl. If I do my curl-v to google.com, I can actually see it right here in this first line right here. So this first line is going to be the request line, and now we actually see where those verbs and those paths appear. The protocol, you don't really need to know too much about the protocol. I want you to know that it's there, but it's almost always HTTP 1.1. This is the version of HTTP we're using, and HTTP doesn't really change that much. All right, thank you, Austin. Let's go to Alex. Are you back?
Yeah, I'm here. Sorry.
You're good. Let's. Can you give me the next part of an HTTP request?
Yes. The option, where are we at? Oh, the request line. Okay, so the headers.
Yeah.
And those.
And go for it. What are they?
They are key value pairs, and they contain supplemental information about our requests, but I'm trying to think about how to put that in maybe more layman's terms.
Yeah. Yeah. Does anyone have any other ideas, like Alex or anybody else? Like, what's maybe a simpler way to describe these headers?
Could I have content, the type of content, and the text or the HTML of that content? So it kind of tells you what type and then what the code is.
Those are examples of headers. So content type is something we'll see pretty often. Host is one that we'll almost always have. What else? So if I go back to my my actual HTTP request here and I look at it, I can see that I have this host key value pair here, this host header, and I have this user agent. And notice how it says user agent curl. So it's saying I sent this request using curl. So if you are using your web browser, it would probably say agent is Google Chrome version, whatever. So content type, host, what was it, user dash agent? Yeah, user dash agent. For now, I don't need you to know any specific headers. I just need you to know that these headers exist and they are a part of this HTTP request. Alex, I'm curious, did you think of what's another way to describe this?
I guess it's just kind of has the, the information we need to understand, what it is that we're I don't know, where we're sending the request to, I guess.
But not necessarily. That could be part of the headers, but that's not required to put that in the headers. So we'll see in this version, we've specified the host as google.com, but you can also see up here that it connected to google.com before it even sent this HTTP request. So a lot of times it's in the headers, but it doesn't have to be in the headers.
Is it just all the information about the server?
It's the information about, not really about the server. This is about the request itself. Luke, you've got your hand up. What do you think?
I just wanted to do the next one because I thought I might have a joke.
Okay, I will let you do that. Yeah, so these headers, like the way that I would describe them is that I would just say they're metadata. Like they're information in the request about the request. So it's like data about yourself. Yeah, again, it's not like super important that you know like specific headers, but very important to know that they exist. Luke, do you want to give me this next part?
Sure. Just like when you're playing with Legos, an optional body.
Nice. Nice.
And I didn't fully understand. I have in my notes only when creating and modifying. I would love to hear what that means in a more specific sense.
Yeah, only when creating or modifying. Arike, what do you think?
I'm sorry. I had a question about the metadata.
Oh, about the headers? Gotcha. Okay. Well, we can circle back to that. Yeah. Can you leave your hand up for me?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So, Luke, in terms of like, this is only for a update or a create. So what that is getting at is that this is used to send data. This is where we're actually going to like input data. So if we are trying to create a new task or a new song or a new artist, or we're trying to update them, this is where we would actually like put those attributes. So in the body, we might see something like title equals toxic, and artist ID equals 45, and play count equals, I'm kind of like making up the syntax a little bit, but this is where like when we're trying to create those new things in Task Manager, you created a form to create a new task that gets sent through the body.
So if you're not updating or anything like that, that's where that optional part comes in. Like if it's just request sending, you're not really doing much to it, like don't need much in the body because there's nothing really to talk about.
Mm-hmm. Danny, do you think you could come up with an HTTP verb that would correspond with an empty body?
Probably get, maybe just to read,
Yeah,
it.
Exactly right. Yeah, if we have a GET request, we are probably just trying to get some information. And so we're not really like sending any information over. Yeah, so back to Luke's point, we're only going to have a body for post, patch, and put. In mod 2, these are and put, we might not even use put at all, but for patch and for post, if we're trying to update something or create something, we need to have some sort of like data to actually create. And this is where it appears in the body. Travis?
Yeah, is this the same thing as the query string?
No, it is not.
Can you describe the difference or I can check it out if it's too long?
I can describe it briefly. We'll actually get into it later, but the query string is actually part of the path. So your path might be like, /song/new or something. And then you might also have a query string that's like view equals dark mode or something like that. We'll talk more, we'll at the end of this class, we'll try and talk a little bit about like, when would you use these query strings? But yeah, it's gonna be part of the path.
So it's like, it's the body is meant to make something change or update or post to, whereas the query string is just like, if you wanna view something specific or go somewhere specific.
Mm-hmm. Yep, and that's what we'll do. That's what we'll do right after we're done reviewing this. Arike, I saw you put your hand down. Do you still have a question about these headers?
Thank you. No.
Okay, let's move on to the response. So can I hear from Angela? Can you give me the first part of the HTTP response?
That would be the HTTP version.
So just like the request, the version is one part of the first part of the response. Do you know what this first part is called?
The line, like the response line?
Yeah, technically this is going to be called the status line. And yeah, the first part of this is going to be the HTTP version.
Okay.
Yeah.
Then we would have the code, like the status code.
Yep, the status code.
And then a string. Do you want me to keep going or?
Yeah, keep going.
Okay. And then a string description of the status code.
Yeah, so I'll say status code description. So examples of, can anyone give me an example of a status code and a description that they might be familiar with?
404.
Yeah. So 404 is a status code, and then Hash, do you know what the description of the 404 would be?
Oh, the description. I'm sorry. Yeah, that page does not exist.
Yeah, technically it's not found, but yeah, that's a lot of times you'll see like page does not exist. So 404 not found. Does anyone have another example of a status code and a description? Corey?
301 moved permanently.
301 moved permanently, and that's what we see here in this example, right? So the first status line here gives us this version, and then it gives us the status code and the description. There's a lot of status codes. I like to use this reference when I'm looking at my status codes. I think this is just like a fun thing to do on a POM if you get a chance. I'm gonna drop that in your Slack channel.
Thank you.
There's some good ones in here. There's one that's like entity too, yeah, request entity too large. What is the 404 one? Not found. Yeah. All right. Let's move on to the next part of the HTTP response. So let's go to Brett. What's the next part?
It's the headers,
Mm-hmm.
which is
Yeah.
very similar to the HTTP request.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's almost exactly the same. So I'll just leave it here as headers. If I go back to my example that we get, I get back from google.com. So this is my status line. And then I get all of these headers. You know when the headers are over because you'll know where the headers end because you'll see a blank line here. So I can see I have this content type header, I got date, I got expires, and then I got like, X frame options. I've got cache control. So I've got a lot of headers in here. And then what's the last part of the HTTP response? Nico. Oh, I think Nico is also having internet issues. Let's go to James.
It's going to be the body from HTML and HTML.
And HTML, gotcha. So what I will say about the body is that it can contain different types of data, and HTML is one type of data that we can send back. So for this body, I will say this is data returned from the server. In mod 2, almost always HTML. So we've talked about request responses. We've seen some HTML before. Now we're getting down to like, how does our browser actually receive that HTML? If I go back to this this example response here, my browser will receive this response, this entire response here. It'll read through this, it'll see some like metadata, and then it'll look in the body and actually display this HTML into the browser. So we've been generating some HTML so far. This is where it actually appears once it gets generated. We can see here there's like an A tag, a link to HTTP google.com. we can see a header tag with a 301 moved, etc. Travis?
So this doesn't show like I mean, I'm assuming that Google uses CSS. This doesn't show CSS and all that.
Yeah, the reason is because this is a 301, which is a 301 response is just saying like, this is no longer located here, it's located here. So if I use the actual, so it actually sends me this header back with the real location. So if I instead curl instead of google.com, I curled http:// that's the full URL. Here's where we'll get back our like huge body. So you can see why we didn't have you do this version, because it's like much harder to parse through. But we could probably see some JavaScript in here. Like this is JavaScript. There's probably a lot more going on.
That's really cool. Wow. Thank you for that.
You're welcome. All right. Let's go ahead and move into class today. So we talked about these HTTP requests and HTTP responses. At the end of this lesson, it also talked about how we actually create these requests. So great, these requests exist, but like, where do they come from? How do they get created? Let's talk about that real quick. So the first way that we're going to create these HTTP requests. So how do requests get created? Because users don't know anything about HTTP, right? They're not manually writing these HTTP requests. The browser is generating them for the user. So they're generated by the browser. So this is your Chrome, this is your Firefox, Internet Explorer, et cetera, et cetera. So all browsers can do this. So if you type a URL into what is this thing called? The browser bar? I'm actually not sure what that's called. Type a URL into the address bar. I think that's what it's called. So you could type a URL, you could fill in a form, could click a button, you could click a link. There's a lot of different ways that these requests get created. And so under the hood, as you're like building out these apps, it's really important to know like, okay, like I have a link here, but when I click this link, what actually happens is this HTTP request gets generated with this data in it. So that's it. That's it for the How the Web Works lesson. For passing data, the first thing that I want to talk about is this like getting data from users, right? So let's go ahead and let's just do this one at a time. So what we've done so far in our apps, what we've done so far in our setlist app is we've built out some index pages, we've built out some tests, we've done some active record associations, but we haven't actually like let the user do anything. We haven't let them send any data. And so that's what we're trying to do right now. So how do users send data? The first one we're going to talk about is the URI. So putting things into the actual path. Cool. When we come back, I want to do something similar to what Tim did yesterday. So I want to get one student to drive and 2 students to navigate, and we're going to work through this first story. So we're going to work through a song show page, and we're going to go through like how are we going to get data from that URL. So yeah, when we come back, if you're willing to do that, please volunteer. And let's take a 5-minute break now, and we'll come back at 9:30.
Thank you, 9:30.
All right. As you start to come back from the POM, can I get everybody to open up the participants panel? Can I get a yes check mark if you would like to drive or navigate? Cool. Okay, I got 3. So let's go ahead and I'll just do the first 3 that I saw. So Travis, Adike, and Angela. Which one of you would like to be the driver?
I would. Me.
All right, Adike. Go ahead and share your screen. And the first thing that we're going to have to do is we're going to clone down setlist. So I'm going to drop the link to the repo in your channel right now.
We're not using the same one that we were using yesterday.
We are, yeah. It's the same one. It's the same link. Setlist 2006. So what Tim did was he pushed up his code from yesterday and we merged it into the main branch. So now the main branch should be up to date with all of our code.
Alrighty. So do I delete the set list that I have in?
So let's go ahead and do this. Can you screen share? And let's work through this together because I think this is worthwhile doing because you're going to run into this at times. So in Mod 2 we don't have like formal Git lessons, so we kind of just like pick things up like this and pick up little bits of knowledge about Git as we go. Yeah.
Okay, so I have the link, but I also have this.
Gotcha. So let's try and not clone down a new version. Let's try and go into your current set list that you have.
Alrighty.
Cool. So let's do from that command line there. We're not going to be in Atom quite yet. So from the command line, if you do git status, this is like a command that I will just run all the time. And so it says like on branch main, changes not staged for commits. And we've got a couple files here. So this is essentially telling us like we've got these files that we've edited. But what I want to do is I just want to get up to date on the like current main branch. So let's try to pull from the main branch. So let's do a git pull origin main. And so what we're going to get is fatal origin does not, wait. That's not right. Git pull origin. Fatal origin does not appear to be a Git repository. Okay, so origin in this case is our remote. It's like what's pointing to GitHub. So if we do git remote -v, we should be able to get some more information on our remotes and see if anything looks funky.
That looks funky.
Yeah, it looks funky because we don't even have, it looks like we don't have any remotes in here. Okay, gotcha. So that's telling me that this is an app that you've set up yourself. This is not the one that you didn't clone this down. So let's go ahead and actually clone down the one that I posted. So let's do a cd ... to just get out of this directory because we don't want to clone the repo inside the other repo. And now if you go to your Slack and pull up the link to that.
I got it.
Oh, you got it? Yeah.
I thought I did. So I just copy pasted and it's not like that. Here it is.
If we have the one from yesterday and we do like a git pull, is there a way that we can just automatically merge it and like override like whatever we did on our remote?
Yes, there is a way. Danny, do you have that issue right now?
Yeah, it just says, please commit your changes or stash them before you merge.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Sorry. I was just saying, I think we all should have that issue if we were working on it yesterday with Tim.
Yeah. So Adike, go ahead and do this clone. And because you're cloning, it should just automatically give you the most up-to-date version. And while that's cloning down, I'm gonna stop your screen share, and then Danny, can you share your screen? Because that is the issue that I wanna, that I'm sure we're all, just like Travis said, like we're probably gonna run into this issue right now, and if not right now, at some point you're gonna run into this. Okay, so Danny, what command did you do to create this error?
So I did git pull origin main.
Yep.
And then I did the remote -v.
Gotcha. So when you did git pull origin, can you do git pull origin main one more time?
Yeah.
Okay, so it says your local changes to the following files will be overwritten by merge. And it gives us a bunch of files, and then it says, please commit your changes or stash them before you merge. So that I do want to stash these changes because stashing is going to, it's just going to like temporarily store them away. I don't really care about my changes right now, or Danny, you might not really care about like the work that you did yesterday. You just want to get up on the most up to date. So let's go ahead and do a git stash.
Oh, I hate when I do that. It's gonna give me an error. Hold on.
There we go. So it says saved working directory. Let's do a git status now. So this is another little funky nuance. If you have these like untracked files, Git can't stash them because it's not tracking them yet. And what I really want to do is I want to get back to like a perfectly clean working tree before I try to pull down again. So what I'm going to have you do, Danny, is do a git add dot. So this is going, yeah.
Okay.
And so this is going to track all of those files. So now if you do a git status, we'll see that it's changes to be committed. Now, normally using git add dot is not recommended because you usually don't want to just like, a dot signifies the current directory. So git add dot is basically add everything in this repo. And a lot of times we don't want to do that. We just want to commit like one file at a time. But in this case, it's okay because now what we're going to do is we're going to stash these rather than commit them. So let's do a git stash. And now a git status. And so now we're back to nothing to commit, working tree clean. So now if you do a git pull origin main, now we should be up to date. And the way that I would check is I would run, can you run git log? If I look at the top of this git log, I see the last commit at the top was merge pull request. Let me highlight it. This one right here. Merge pull request, add tutorial work. And Danny, do you have the GitHub page open?
I do.
Let's go and check that out.
Oh, the GitHub page. Hold on.
Yeah.
I don't, but I can get it. Is our...
Oh, I don't know if we're going to find it in there. Do you have the Slack message open? If you can click on the link from Slack.
Yeah.
So you can see right here this is the last commit that was made in this repo. So the merge pull request #1, which lines up with what we saw from our git log. So that's telling me my remote, my GitHub, and my local are like synced up. They're on the same commit, and we're good to go.
Thank you.
All right, thank you, Danny. Yeah, Git from this point on is like we're gonna like just kind of pick things up as we go. Yeah, Adika, can you take over the screen share? And who are my two navigators, Angela and Travis? Is that right?
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
So the first thing, I'm going to look at the lesson plan, and underneath song show page, I see the user story here. As a visitor, when I visit /song/1, where the ID, where 1 is the ID of a song in my database, then I see that song's title and artist, and I do not see any other songs in my database. So your job is to go ahead and complete the story.
And we don't do the warm-up user story?
No, we're skipping over the warm-up story.
No warm up, Angela. Full throttle. Let's go.
So the first thing I would do is undo everything Brian just told you to do. Just kidding.
Okay.
DK, can you just do a couple zooms? I'm sorry.
Yeah. Nope, that's not the button.
Yeah, and on the terminal as well. Awesome.
There it is. There's the button. Is that good?
Yeah.
How do I do the one for Adam again? That's not it.
Should be the same.
Okay, thank you.
I think first step would be a test.
Agreed.
Nice.
Yeah.
Great.
So when we visit song/1, is that a feature test that we need to write?
It looks like
Yeah, so I think we'd have to like write a test to start going with our process.
Yeah, good old TDD.
Yeah.
Start with the test.
Right under first test, guys, the commented out spec features song show spec kind of guides you on where to go.
So let's make a new test file. So you can go to your terminal and go touch, and then go spec/features/songs/show spec.rb. Singular show. Yeah, do that. Then let's open that up.
Nope. JK. Doesn't even see it.
Do we copy the test from
Yeah,
the...
go ahead and copy the test.
So in the lecture. Oh, did you copy already?
I just did, yeah.
Oh, no. So you copied the test. So I think we should copy the one from the lecture notes. Is that right, Brian?
Yeah, go ahead and copy it from the lesson plan at DK, and then we can look at it and get questions from there.
Got it. Where's the lesson plan?
In the mod 2 page, like the Turing.
Yeah. I'll post it in the channel. I just realized I didn't do that.
Oh, Daniel just posted it in the chat.
Oh, thank you, Daniel. Alrighty. So this one?
Yeah.
Yeah.
This is what I'm copy pasting. All right.
Yes, this is how you test. You just copy and paste the test from the lesson plan, and then you're good.
Oh, yeah.
So if our future employer doesn't have a lesson plan, we should probably do something about that.
We could ask some of our bomb teachers in our cohort to set them straight.
I think the next thing is, to run it on terminal RSpec, yeah.
So I want to ask you all, before we go too much further, I can't remember from yesterday the syntax that we see on line 7 to create a song. Did you all see that yesterday?
No.
Talkingheads.songs.
Yes.
I did not show them that way yesterday.
Gotcha. So let's go ahead and I'll drive this for just a second. So what you saw yesterday was probably Arike on line 7 there, where we have talkingheads.songs. Let's go ahead and replace talkingheads.songs with just song, capital S song.create. Yep, and then you can take out talkingheads on line 7.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so just song.create. And then let's give this creation another argument. So just before the parentheses, the end parentheses, or you could do it at the beginning. Yeah, wherever. And then let's pass it another attribute of artist, and then we can give it talking heads. So this is what you saw yesterday. And what we want to do here, rather than the string, let's pass it the object, talking heads. So the variable we created on line 6. Yeah. Arike, could you do me a favor and split your screen? And can you pull open the the artist model?
Artist model. Which one would that?
Yeah, that's it.
This one. Okay.
Do you think you could make your screen a little bigger?
Mm-hmm.
Can you take up the full screen? Oh, that's nice. There we go. Okay. So now what we have here is we have 2 different ways to create a new song. When we have these associations where a song has to belong to an artist, we have 2 different ways to create it. So what you saw yesterday, which was what we have on line 7, where we just say song.create, and we have to pass it an attribute of who the artist is. This association on line 2 in this model, has many songs, gives us the ability to call the method .songs. Just like in mod 1, when you had an adder reader, it created a method for you. This has many creates a method for us called .songs. So on line 8 here, we see a new way to associate 2 records together. We can actually say talking heads .songs and create the song through that. So notice in here, we don't have to pass it like comma what the artist is. We can just say talking heads .songs.
So Brian, that when we go .songs, that accesses like the column. In that, like, what are we calling? Like, what is that the return for that method?
Technically, sorry, my internet is a little slow. Technically, what you're calling on is an active record relation. I don't want to go too deep into that right now. And honestly, like, I don't have a ton of understanding about the active record relation. You can kind of think of it as like the relationship. So it's like talking heads.songs is the relationship between an artist and a song, and we are creating an artist in that relationship.
Okay.
I don't know if you all heard any of that.
And that's being created through the has many songs.
Yeah, has many songs gives us the ability to call talking heads.songs.
Brian?
Yes.
This is Kira. I was just curious why in this show spec on line 6, artist create has the bang, but on line 7, song create doesn't.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, when you have the when you put the bang on some of these active record methods, there's a couple of them, like update will do this as well. The bang essentially says, it says, if there's an error, throw the error and let me know about it. So for example, Adike, if you take out the artist that we added in, so this artist argument here that we added for that She Was song. Mm-hmm. Let's run the test. So what the first failure what is the first failure we're gonna get? Yeah, so our first failure was an expectation. So we failed this expectation. Let's go ahead and now add a bang on the song.create. So right there, song.create, and then add an exclamation mark. Okay, now let's run the test. And now what error do we get? Yeah, we're getting validation failed, artist must exist. So when you put the bang on the create method, it essentially is like more strict. It's like only create this thing if you were successful in creating it. If you weren't, throw an error and let me know about it. So a lot of times we'll put the bang on our creates in our tests because we want to make sure that we're creating our dummy data appropriately. We typically don't want to put the bang in the application code because we don't want our application to error out. We prefer our applications to kind of like fail silently if they do fail, because users, if they like see errors, they essentially say like, oh, well, this app doesn't work at all. But it's okay to do in our tests because the users will never see any like test data. Okay. Does that make sense, Kira?
Yeah, that was perfect.
Priya, do you have a question?
Actually, it's Leah's question in the chat, but I'm curious too. Why, if it's more appropriate to use the bangs in testing, when would you not use a bang in testing?
I think never. I think you always want to use the bang in testing. You want to be, if you're trying to create something in your test, you probably want it to tell you if you did something wrong. So I almost always use it in the test. Now, sometimes I just forget. And like, that's the only reason that I wouldn't do it.
So where do we not use it?
Don't use it in your application code. So anything in the app folder. So in your controller, in your model, view, try not to use it in there. Now I will say this is not the it's not the end of the world if you use it or don't use it. Most of the times it will do the same thing. If it is successful in creating, the bang won't make a difference.
Okay.
All right, what do I do next? Or wait, are we waiting for more questions?
I don't see any other questions. I think y'all are good to go.
Let's
Alrighty.
create that song with an artist. So we have it. So we could add back that argument at the end of the. Yeah. Cool. So let's rerun the test.
Oh.
And Travis, you can take this one.
Yeah, I was actually I thought I was messing around with a different error because I got the same thing, the same error just now. So obviously we have to create a route for this. So I would go to I shouldn't say obviously, sorry, I didn't mean that. Go to the routes folder, yeah, or file. And then I imagine we want to do a kind of like line 3, but instead of songs, we want to do songs /:ID. And then 2 : songs $ID. But that's going to throw an error too.
Do we need a slash at the beginning of that first song string?
Oh, yeah.
Is that a thing?
Good catch.
And
I believe it would still work without it, but it is good to add it in.
On line 4, songs /:ID, you want to do /song/.
Oh, a slash in front of it.
Yeah.
That? Okay.
And are we doing songs Octothorpe ID or songs Octothorpe show?
That's a good question, Danny.
think it might be show, but I kind of want to see if we get an error.
We do. I got an error, but we can see it too. Yeah.
I'm in class later.
The action ID cannot be found.
So show, because this error says the action ID could not be found for Songs controller, and I would imagine that in Songs controller we wouldn't put ID as a method. So I think Danny's right. I think we put show. Yeah.
So then you'd go to the Songs controller. Yeah. And let's add a show method in there, or action. Let's rerun the test.
Cool. So it's missing a template. So I would imagine we want to make a page for it. So, right, Angela, would you agree?
Yep, yeah.
Cool. So in views, Arike, in your views folder, you want to go to songs folder. Yeah. That one. Yeah, and then we're going to create a new file called show.html.erb in the songs folder. Yeah.
I actually don't know the shortcut for this. So in app, right? That's where views is.
Yeah. And you could also do it in the terminal. Click into views first.
Yeah, I'm in it.
Oh, yeah.
Do we need to make a folder for views?
We have to do it for show, right?
Yeah, I think we might need a folder.
I don't think we need a folder. I think we just put a new file of show and songs.
Oh, but do we have a songs folder? Oh, yeah, we probably do.
Oh, I do. I don't know if Arike does.
Yeah. Just because we didn't look at it.
Do you have a songs folder, Arike? Okay. Oh, yeah, there we go. And then in there, show.html.erb.
Hey, Brian, I have a real quick question.
Yeah, what's up?
Can you, up until this point, just like simply state, we ran the test, this was the error, like how we corrected it? Just that?
Can I say what you all have done so far, or just if it's correct?
No, what we've done.
Okay, so you've we made the test, we ran the test. Our first error was that we didn't have a route, so we made the route and we routed it to the controller, the song controller, and the show action. So you all, one comment I do have about that, when you were like, is the action ID or is it show, like whatever. You can name the action whatever you want. Like you could name it Arike super special show action, whatever. Like you can really name it whatever you want. But there is convention around what we named this. So thinking back to that REST lesson that we have a lot of conventions for what we name things. And while this REST is not, while REST doesn't tell us like what Rails controller action should be named, Rails by convention does want to name these actions: show, index, update, et cetera, et cetera. So you all did do a good job of picking the right convention. So we picked a controller action, then it said the action wasn't found, so we created an action. Then once we created the action, it said the view wasn't found, so we created a view, and that's where we're at right now.
Awesome, thank you.
And if you ask me to do something simple, I throw some extra info in there as well.
Always appreciated.
Angela, you want to take this part?
Sure. Let's see. Forget how we do views. Can you show me the index.html?
Use HTML, yeah.
Okay. All right. And let's take a look at the test, because I forget what we're exactly looking for in our
song. So I think I heard someone say this yesterday. What's Tim's advice? Like you kind of lose your spot. You're not really sure like what to do next. What do you do?
Run the test.
Yeah. Because our last error was we didn't have a view. Well, we just made one. So let's see if we're past that error.
Okay. So it expected to find the title in.
She was in.
What is that empty string?
It means that it was
Oh, it wasn't there.
a string. It's not there. Yeah.
Yeah, okay. So we just need to show the song title. So let's go. Yeah, let's go to the view. And let's add a header, an H2 header, or H1, it's fine. And let's add the, I forget what they're called, but the ERB kind of.
Oh, yeah.
If you do a shortcut for that is if you backspace, Arike, and hit equal tab.
Whoa.
Equal.
Thank you.
That was cool.
Awesome. Cool. So we need to get the song title in there, which I'm just looking at the notes. I don't think I know this yet, but you do your song instance.
Yeah, I think we could do the variable, the @songs, and do like a dot each or something and say show the song title or something like that.
Yeah, but in this case, since we're just showing a single song, because we're
right.
into the ID, it's just one song.
Right.
So just do @song, and then that dot title. And I feel like we need to put that, like find that song inside the show action. But let's just see what error we get. Undefined method title for nil class. Yeah. So I think it's going into the show action and it can't find anything called @song.
Mm-hmm.
So in there,
Mm-hmm.
we would add @song equal find or equal song find. So capital song. Find, and then in parentheses, params ID. And yeah, we need a symbol actually. So
oh, it's a symbol.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool. So we now need the artist.
Nice.
Cool. Travis, do you want to go?
I'm actually still catching up if you wouldn't mind going a little bit more. I'm still a little lost.
So you're lost?
Yeah, I'm not sure how you know that we need the, what did you say? We need the artist now?
Yeah, so I'm looking at the error and it says expected to find text by Talking Heads.
Oh, okay. Okay, well.
Oh,
then-
wait, so that's weird. So the error is saying expected to find text by Talking Heads in the string that we just made it print. Oh, so I guess, is it just looking at, does it just look at the page as like a long string and then it just
Yes.
looks for that specific? Okay.
That's exactly right, Angela. It's so before when we had nothing in our view, it was just like expected to find in empty quotes because you didn't have anything in your view. Now that we've added the song title, now it's seeing our view as just the song's title in quotes, which is quote, and she was.
Cool. Okay. So do you see why we need, like, are you less lost, Travis?
Yes, thank you.
Do you want to go?
Sure. Adike, I'm thinking. So we need to get the artists there. So I'm thinking in the show.html.erb, we can do like below that one, do like a header 3, and then do by colon. I think that's what the test wants. Yeah, by by colon, and then the ERB. So yeah. And I'm thinking at, let me see, at artist dot, no, at song dot artist. Maybe, yeah. Yeah, let's try that. No, interesting.
Is it a different object?
So it returned. So if we look at the string it gave us, so it expected to find the name of the artist, but instead I have my song title and then my artist object. So I think we just didn't return the right thing.
Yeah, and Angela, let me, so you're right. Let me show you one more thing. So just to like be really explicit about what Angela's talking about, she's looking at this text right here and seeing like, oh, we're actually displaying this like artist. This looks like a Ruby object, right? This is a Ruby object. Adike, can you go to the test file?
Mm-hmm.
So I see it's failing on that line that says expected to find the text by, and then what the artist name is.
Oh, name.
I think this is the show spec, yeah.
Right.
So let's go down to, let's scroll down and before line 13. So we're failing on line 13. So before line 13, let's put, let's put a new line in there. And let's put save and open page, all snake case. So save and open page. Have you all seen this yet? You have seen this? Yeah.
No.
So this is how I would debug this. If if my test is saying I expected to find this, but I think that I put it in there, let's run a save and open page and let's see what it looks like. So that's another way that you would catch this error. And then if you run this, we should see the actual web page pop up.
Like a pry, but on your browser?
Yeah, it's kind of like a pry. It's not very sophisticated though. So yeah, we can see there, that's an artist object, not the artist name.
So should it be artist.name?
Yeah.
I think you're right. Try that.
Refresh? No.
It will open again though.
Aha.
Ha 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 ha. We did it.
Passing tests.
Good work, everybody. Very good job. There's a couple things I want to talk about. So we got to this, Adike, can you put a pry in the first line as a show action? And then on the left here, can you pull up the routes file?
Mm-hmm.
So I really want to talk about this line 8 over here in the controller. How did we know to like do params ID here? So in our routes, we've got get/songs, and then we've got :ID here. And so the title of this class is passing data in Rails, right? Our route that we had, oh, Adike, can you also maybe in this bottom right one, can you pull up the test?
Which test? Oh,
the show spec.
Also, it looks like Nico has his hands up while I look for that.
It was just a quick question. You know, I feel like I was following along, but I'm getting a different error. I'm getting an error that is not the what's the name in the test? It says the visit, you know, songs, you know, found she was.id is not working. Like and I'm not sure why. I feel like everything looks the same to me that I've been following along.
Let me finish up here and then we'll figure out what your
thank you.
is.
Sorry about, yeah, I know I want to keep feeling.
So if I look, can you scroll down a DK? Let's find the part of the test where we're visiting. Okay, so we're visiting, here we go. We're visiting /song/ and then we're interpolating in the ID of our song right here. So then when Rails gets that, when it gets that route, it's going to take that ID and use it as a, sometimes we refer to this as a placeholder. It's kind of like a variable. The way to think about your routes is that it's pattern matching. So when you see this ID, this is just saying, I'm expecting something to be here. So /song/ and then anything will become this ID. So what I don't want you to think is that like, this has to be called ID or that ID is some sort of like special word here. It's just saying the colon is saying we're expecting something to be here. So now DK, if you run the test, we should hit that pry in the controller. So we'll be pried in right here in our show action. And now if we run params, we will see this params object that that Rails gives us, and we can see in there that one of the thing that we're looking for is our ID. So if you do params and then brackets with symbol ID, that's how we get that ID. Adike, can you also do params string ID? So both of these will actually work. It doesn't have to be one or the other, but typically you will see a symbol more often than a string for these params. Let's run another experiment. Adike, can you change ID to like dog or something, just like a different word? And let's exit that pry and run the test again. And let's check out our params. Now we can see that this parameter is being called dog right there. So all that thing in your routes is saying like, I'm gonna create a param in my params hash with this name, and it's gonna be whatever value I get in this URI. So that's our first like passing data thing. We can just pass these IDs or other data through the actual path. Phil, do you have a question?
Yes, can you just briefly explain what params actually is? What is meant by params?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so params is a special object that you have access to in your controller. It behaves like a hash. It's very similar to a hash. We can access it with bracket notation. It's not exactly a hash. Adike, can you do params.class in the terminal?
Sure thing.
So it's actually an action controller parameters object, but it behaves like a hash. And this takes all of the data that you receive in a request and puts it in one place. So as we talk about different ways to pass data, all of that same data is going to just be shoved into this params object.
So it's like the object that you're currently interested in or dealing with.
Yeah, I would say it's an object that represents the request that you're currently dealing with.
Okay.
So we just talked about like at the beginning of class, we talked about like HTTP requests and all the different parts that they have. Params essentially like takes that request and puts all the relevant pieces into this params object for you. So Rails really abstracts away the HTTP request in this case. So that's why it's important for us to like talk about a little bit about it, because we don't actually see it in action. Adike, can you stop your screen share and let's go ahead and take a look at Nico's issue.
So mine actually was a human error. I had a underscore versus a dot in between show and HTML.
Gotcha.
So,
yep.
Sorry.
It's almost always human error, isn't it?
Almost 101%.
Brett, I see you have your hand up.
Yeah, so in order to pass in data, you do it through the action.
You do it through the action. I will say the action is the first place where you have access to it. let's go ahead and take a 5-minute break. We'll come back at 10:20.
Thank you, 1020.
Thanks, 1020.
Enrique, did you have a question? Cool. So as people are coming back from the POM, let's go ahead and start with your question. I think you just went on.
Can you hear me?
Now I can hear you.
Okay. I ended up posting it in the chat, but I'm mostly just like, I've hit an error once doing this like songs dash slash colon ID, that when I go on to like want a like songs like new page so that I can create a form to create a new song, it shows, the error says like there's no song with an ID of new, and I don't
love it. Well,
that.
Yeah, I want to go over that, so we'll definitely talk about that.
Awesome, thank you.
Cool. So as people are coming back, I like that style. I want to do one more round of student, driver, navigator. Let's get a new trio. So thank you very much, Angela, DK, and Travis. Can I get 3 more people in the participants panel to give me a green check? No one? Travis says coffee. Oh, we got a Phil. All right, who's going to join Phil on this awesome adventure? We got a Drew. All right, let's do that. Let's do Drew and Phil for this. Which one of you wants to drive?
I'd probably be better driving because I'm a little bit lost on the material, but I'm up to date on my set list.
Awesome. Well, go ahead and screen share.
It's okay, Phil. I'm pretty lost too. I just volunteered because why not?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's totally fine. If you lean on the lesson plan for this, and it should walk you through most of it. This is going to be there's going to be some new things for us to talk about for sure. This is not straightforward. So yeah, just lean on that lesson plan, and I'll be here in case you get stuck. And your other cohort mates are here too to help you.
That's true. We're on just the new artist form in the lesson, right?
Yeah, that's correct.
Okay. So, Phil, we need a test because we're going to add a form for a new artist. So, we need a new spec.rb in our artist folder of our features folder of our spec folder. Yeah, features / artists / new _ spec.rb.
We need a new folder for that.
Do we not have, let's see, I didn't even look. We do, you're right. So we need a mecdir spec / features / artists first. Then we'll touch, yep.
So Phil, can you before you do that, can you delete that line, and let's do it over one more time. So like yesterday, Tim went over, he's like really heavy on using the Command T to find files. When you're in the terminal, using tab to autocomplete folder and file names is really, really helpful, because it not only helps you type faster, but it also just confirms that you are spelling things right. So now if you do like F tab, it should go to the features, and then A tab, it should go to artists. Those will help speed up your development and catch any like misspellings.
What was it going to be called? I'm sorry. What was the file?
New _ spec.rb.
Cool.
And then we can Control P to find it. And then, I don't know, should we just copy and paste this from the lesson, Brian?
Yeah, let's do that.
Okay.
So in this test, we've seen all of this before, except for this fill in on line 13. So this is how we're going to use Capybara to mimic the behavior of a user of them like typing into a form.
That is a lot of describe do's. Okay, so yeah, let's do an RSpec in our command line. So unable to, does it say the same thing as the lesson? No route matches get artists. So we need to go into the routes. Yep. So we'll do a get / artists. And we'll get that to, well, let's see. Because this is doing a new artist. Do we need an artist index first? Because will this be artist / new eventually?
Yeah, so let's actually, we would need an artist index for this. So let's actually like change the test a little bit. Let's pull up on the right pane. Phil, can you pull up that test that we just made? I think new spec. So this is assuming that we have an artist index. And so if we look at this test a little more closely, we visit / artists, and then from there, we click this link, new artist. Yeah, let's actually just go ahead and keep it the way it is.
So we need to make the index first?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so get artists, get / artists to artists Octothorpe hashtag, what are we calling it these days? Index. And then let's run a test, see what it tells us to do. Failures, visit artists. Okay, so yeah, I don't really know what this test is specifically telling us, to be honest.
I think it's telling us to do that we don't have an artist controller yet.
Gotcha. Okay, cool. So we need to do that. A little touch app / controllers / artists controller.rb. Cool. And then we need that to class artists controller inherit from application controller. And let's throw an end. And then in between, let's go ahead and define index.
So I think we're getting a little ahead of ourselves. Let's go ahead and take out that index section and be super TDD here. Our last error was it couldn't find the artist controller.
Right.
So let's make sure we run this. And this might seem a little bit silly, but this is really important to do in Rails because this will help you catch spelling errors. If you just misspelled, oh, there it is.
Let's see. All right, I would like to phone a friend. Danny likes to help.
Can you do me a huge favor? Can you just like make your terminal just a little bit bigger? Thank you. Let's see. Scroll up just a little bit. Yeah. Is it artist action control routing error?
So it says name error caused by name error. Check that out.
Mm-hmm.
I think record versus controller, right?
Is it in the routes where our spelling error is?
Artist is supposed to be singular, I believe.
Yeah, can you open your file tree? Yeah, artist controllers should be named artist controller.rb, I think.
Yeah, so TDD here is very important because this is helping us catch the spelling error. It would be really frustrating if we went out and built the index action and built all this stuff out and we weren't able to get anything done because we just had an extra S.
The action index. Okay, so now we're to the point where we can define index. And let's TDD this. Index is missing a template. Okay, so now it wants us to make the index.html.erb in the view, correct? So we will need to, we'll need to mcdir an app/views/artists. And then we'll touch, app/views/artists/index.html.erb. Okay, and now I guess let's run a test just to see what it tells us. Yeah. Okay, so unable to find link, new artist. So it's reading our page like it wants to, but we also don't have anything on our page, so it can't find that. So I guess we need to make the index. Yeah, so let's see. What does it want again? Let me go to the test. It wants us to be able to visit it, click on new artists, and then go to artists new.
And now you're hitting that failure message that it's actually in our lesson plan.
Oh, cool. I have not even been following along with that, so that's good to know. Okie dokie.
Yeah, so this is a new thing, so I wouldn't expect you to know how to do this quite yet.
Okay, do we need to, I'm assuming we need to throw stuff onto our index page is the next step. So, yeah, I don't really know. I'm pretty terrible at HTML still, so if anybody wants to help, that would be amazing.
Yeah, it's in the lesson plan, but if you, in HTML, if you do the equals tab.
Oh, hey.
And then you're going to do link _2. Space, single quote, capital new, space, capital artist, singular. And then outside of that, you'll put a comma outside of that quote. I'm sorry, right there, comma, space, single quote, / artists, plural. lowercase a /new. And then I would run your test.
So let's pause here and let's talk about this just a little bit. Thank you, Danny. Danny, I'm going to officially ordain you to be the second navigator on this. Congratulations. So this link to, can I get a volunteer from the crowd? Based on what you know about HTML so far, how would we create a link to a different page? And it's okay if you don't have the exact syntax, but let's kind of like crowdsource it. Arike, you want to go for it?
Yeah, it's the A tab.
Yeah. Phil, do you think you could type that out online too, what that would look like? So let's make an A, and A stands for anchor. So we'll make an anchor tag.
Sorry, I'm not familiar with what that is.
Just want to the letter A and tab it.
A? You mean like that?
Oh, just
Letter A.
Letter A?
And then tab. There you go.
Cool.
And then in that pound, you want to put where you want to go when this link is.
Mm-hmm. So let's put in there /artist/new. And you can take out that pound sign too. And Phil, can you put in between the two tags, can you put new artist?
You mean like here?
In between the close and the open tag. So like right in there.
Yeah. Just new?
New artist. This is the label. If you think about like a link on a page, let's actually let's call this new artist 2. Let's just give it like a different identifier. And let's spin up our Rails server. And let's just see what this looks like. Now, if we go to localhost 3000/artists, let's see what we got. There we go. So we can see that new artist 2, that text is just like the label of the link. And then the href attribute is the where the link is actually submitting to. Phil, do you think you could, yeah, we'll get there in just a second. Could you pull the browser down just a little bit so we can see some of the code? Yeah. So this link to right here is a method that will generate HTML for us. This is called an action view helper. This is just makes things way easy. It makes writing HTML way easier. We could write all of this HTML manually, like we could write all of these A tags and everything, but Rails gives us a lot of shortcuts for doing that. And one of them is link to. And we'll get to another one in just a second. But I do want to pause here. Does anyone have any questions about these, like this view? Travis, do you have a question?
Yeah, and this might not be related. We can talk about it later, but I'm getting a pending migration error.
Oh, gotcha.
Same.
So if you have a pending migration error, I would run Rails DB migrate. So it says I have migrations that haven't been run. Let me run them.
Gotcha.
Other questions?
It's saying that the create table artist already exists.
Oh, that's weird. Your database, like somehow it got out of sync with the migrations. I would just do I would just drop recreate and remigrate.
Okay, thank you.
I have the same issue. Can we do it together so that way we don't fall behind?
Sure. Travis, do you think you could share your screen?
Sure.
I thought this up too, that like it was caused if you had multiple terminals running, which I do as well. So someone, I think we had it come up last night, and closing the second terminal maybe fixed it or something strange.
Oh, That might be
We only
it.
have one terminal open.
Scratch that.
So if you run Rails DB migrate,
Yeah, I
it
did
doesn't
that.
work. Oh, and that's what you got. Yeah, I don't know why that. So somehow we talked yesterday about like the timestamping and how like Active Record knows if Rails knows if a migration has been run, and it'll tell you if it hasn't been run. I don't know how, but somehow it like got out of sync with that. And I think that can happen as we like exchange code and we like go back to different versions and we look at this person's version. So in this case, let's do Rails DB drop. So one point that I want to make is that if this was a production database with actual data that I cared about, I wouldn't just drop it. Dropping is like just deleting everything. But because we're in our like local development environment, it's okay. We don't really have any sensitive data in here. So now we dropped it. Let's go ahead and create it. So Rails DB create.
And migrate.
And then let's do migrate. And if this doesn't work, then we have a separate issue.
Hey.
Yeah. So that looked good. And that sequence of like create, migrate, or drop, create, migrate, get familiar with that because that's usually what you have to do to set up any Rails app.
Yeah, I just did all those instructions as well, and it's still giving me the caused by PG duplicate table error.
Okay, let's work through that together. Danny, could you take over the screen share?
Sure.
Is anyone else still getting this issue?
So I ran the see, I ran the drop.
Let's do it again.
DB drop.
Yeah, so let's do Rails DB drop.
Danny, mine did that too, and I had to close. I closed both my browser and the other terminal window because it said it was being accessed.
Oh, the terminal window.
So before you do that, Danny, let's actually like run into that. So run Rails DB drop and let's pay attention to the output.
Okay.
Yeah, so this is telling me this wasn't successful. It says Rails aborted, don't know how to build task DB drop. Whoa, wait, that's not right. Don't know how to build task DB. Oh, you have 2 colons in there, I think.
Rails colon. It's thinking really, really hard.
It is.
I think my computer's about ready to take launch.
There we go. Okay, so now we get there is one other session using the database. There's one other session using the database. Yeah. So what you have to do is you have to close any like running Rails servers or any Rails consoles. So yeah, it looks like that tab is running a Rails server. Now, if you go back, you should be able to drop. There you go. So you always want to pay attention to these commands and just make sure if you run a command, did you get the output that I expected?
Ryan, what was her issue again? She had something else open?
She had a Rails server running. So because when a Rails server is running, it's using your database and you can't drop the database if it's in use.
And then I create and then migrate, correct?
Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
Cool. Let's go ahead and pick back up with Phil.
Thank you, guys.
Yeah, of course. And Phil, I think you're good to take out that second anchor tag that we made.
Okay, so Phil, I guess let's run a test to see where we're at because I forgot. So it is, what's the first failure? Click new artists, no matches for get artist new. Okay, so that's a routing error. So we need to go to routes and do something for artist/new. Yeah. So we need to get artists/new.
I think you got to do a / /artist/new.
And then get that to artist new. Yep, and let's RSpec and see what TDD tells us. Action new not found. So in artist controller, we need a new method. And let's RSpec again. Okay, so this is our, yep, this is telling us we need the artist's new.html.erb document, I believe. So I think we'll touch app/views/artists/new.html.erb. New.html.erb. Cool, so let's RSpec and see what it wants now. Unable to find field name, so I think we've gotten to the point in the lesson where we actually need to build the form.
Yeah, that's right, Drew. So let's go ahead and follow this lesson. And Phil, can you just pull up the lesson plan so we can look at it together?
Yeah, which code block do we actually look at?
Yeah, I want to talk about that. So let's scroll down. We should see an HTML form. Yeah, right there. Okay. So if you go back to your task manager, I'm not going to have you all do that. But if you went back and looked at your task manager and tried to see like, how did we create a new task? Well, we had a form, and this is what the form looks like. So let me just be really clear. I'm looking at this block right here. This is the form, and it's like pretty, okay, so this first line, it tells us what the route is that we're submitting to, what the path is, and it's also what the HTTP method is right here. It's got a couple input fields. It's got this like special input field, which is a Rails security thing that we just need to do. But we've got these other inputs that are our text input. There's a text area input here, and then there's a submit button as well. So Drew, what I want you to do is I want you to go ahead and use this version of the form.
Okay.
And we don't need that like authenticity token part or anything like that?
No.
So where's this going? In the
artists new.html.erb in the views. Yep.
Yeah. So just like our link to, Rails gives us some action view helpers that make generating HTML way easier. So this form tag will create that form for us. The best thing about it is that So the link to, as I showed you before, you could skip using the action view helper and you could just manually make the link to. When you're making forms, you want to use one of the form helpers because, as Danny pointed out, it takes care of that like authenticity token security thing for us. I don't want to go too deep into what that is. That's more of like an end of mod 2, mod 3 topic. But suffice to say that the form tag will handle like the security for us. And then look how nice it is to make the text fields. We just say text field tag and give it an identifier. We can make a submit button with the submit tag. So these form helpers are really, really helpful.
From the dev?
Danny, would you like to go, or how do you want to do this?
I feel like it's telling us that we have to now create, run your test one more time now that we added that HTML stuff. And it looks like we need to go back to our routes and we need to create like a post to actually post it.
One thing that I want to point out here is that the form tag, can you go back, sorry, Phil, can you go back to the view we were just on?
Yeah.
Notice how we didn't specify that this is a post, it just defaults to a post. So form will default to a post request.
So back to routes?
Yeah. I'm not 100% sure what the route actually, let's see here, current path. So I guess we do post / artists, or post, yeah, / artists. And I'm not really 100% sure, to be honest. I mean, I guess, would it be like to the artist.show? We didn't create a show page though.
Is it create or update?
Yeah, I think it's to artists create, maybe? Is that what we're doing? I mean, a new artist. Yeah. Artists plural, Phil. Yeah. And then we'll need a create method in the controller.
Well, run
But
your
let's
test.
run a test. Can we run a test real quick, Phil, just to make sure that's what it's telling us to do?
Sure.
Okay. Yep. Cool. So define create.
Yeah, the action create could not be found for artists controller. So in our controller, we want to hit, we want to create a def create.
Yep, let's run a test again just to tell us where we're at. And
so it's reading in our spec where it says expect page dot to have content Megan. So what that tells me, I believe, is that in our action create, we're gonna have to do something like at artists equal artist dot name, maybe.
So this is a good place for us to for me to take over. So Danny and Drew, I'm going to take over for just a second here. So this unable to find XPath HTML, this is saying like we don't have a view. And so let's redirect, let's do a redirect to inside of our create. And let's redirect them to, based on our tests, it looks like we want them to go back to the artist index. So let's say redirect to, and then let's pass that a string of /artists.
I haven't really seen
underscore
this before.
too.
Underscore, okay.
Yeah, sorry.
And then, I'm sorry, to what?
And then pass it to string/artist.
String/artist?
Perfect.
Okay.
So what we're saying is we want the user, after they try to create an artist, we want them to go back to the artist index page and see their new artist. Yeah, so let's run the test and see what happens. And what I would expect is that because we haven't done anything in our controller to actually create the artist, we would just get a failure. And sure enough, we do. It says, I don't see this artist Megan in this page. Part of that might be because we're not just displaying, because we're not displaying the artist. If you remember our artist index we created with just a link, but that's okay. We can get around that later. So what I want to do in this controller is I want to actually create this artist. Phil, can you pry into the first line of that create action? And you don't have to require pry. Because we put it in our gem file, it's required for us. Yeah.
Oh, good to know.
I don't think it would hurt, but it's unnecessary.
Okay.
Okay. Anytime I'm pried into my controller, maybe not anytime, but almost always, what I want to check is I want to check params. So let's type params. I talked about this before, but like all of our data that we're getting from this request is accessible in the first line of this controller. And so that's what I want to do here. I want to see like, do I get my params? And I
Looks like name.
Oh, there it is. Yeah. Yeah. This is what we filled in the form, right? So this is our one param that we're expecting. So we talked about, so far we've talked about passing data through the URI, through the path. This is our second way to pass data. We are passing data through a form submission. The user, in this case, looking at our test on line 13, we filled in a form here. We submitted the form by clicking that button, and now we've got data. But notice that Rails doesn't make any distinction between form data, URI data, et cetera, et cetera. It just kind of takes all of the data that you're getting and puts it into this params object. So that's what we've got here. So what we want to do is we want to use, Phil, let's do params and then pass it, let's do params, square brackets, and then let's pass it the symbol name to see if we can get access to that name. And sure enough, we can. So in our create action here, let's do song, or sorry, artist. I don't know why I did song. Let's do capital A artist dot create. And let's pass it params and then that symbol name.
So would that be?
That would be parentheses here. Yeah.
Params and then same thing, square bracket.
Yep, just like we did in our pry.
Okay.
And let's take out that pry. And we talked about this already. Let's also put a bang here on this create, just in case if we don't do it correctly, that it will it'll error out. So let's run this test. And let's scroll up. Oh, okay. So it says when assigning attributes, you must pass a hash as an argument. So rather than just passing params name, let's do name colon params name.
I'm sorry, name.
Name colon. So this is going to be a keyword argument, and then params name.
Params and then.
Yeah, just like that. So we're saying we're creating a new artist with the name of whatever name we got from our form. And there we go. So it let us create the artist like that. Though we're not going to do this part together. I think you all can do this on your own. It's in the lesson plan. But the only reason this isn't working is because we're just not displaying anything on our view, on our artist view. So the next thing to do would be to actually like go into the view and show all the artists. I do want to talk about strong params here for a second. So Phil, let's do one other thing. Let's actually just replace this name. Let's replace all of this with just params. And let's try that. And see if that errors out. So what we're going to get is we're going to get active model forbidden attributes error. So Rails has some built-in security features for us. We don't need to go too in-depth into the security, but we want to prevent against people sending data that we don't want to receive. And so what we do is we use this special, we use some special methods to say that we only want specific data out of this params object. So Phil, let's make a new method underneath create here. Let's say def artist params. And then inside this method, we're going to say params.permit. And then the symbol name. Let's pass that with parentheses. Yeah. So this is saying, rather than just like accepting any params, we're only going to accept params for the name of this artist. And so then we can call that method right here. So replace that params with artist params.
I'm sorry, do replace this with artist params?
Yeah.
You're
So we're
calling-
going to call our method.
Do we need to put the private?
You don't need to. Let's just put it in for convention's sake. Did you all talk about private methods in Mod 1?
Not, I wouldn't say directly, but.
Cool. So let's just put it in here for now, and let's save like discussion of it later. Phil, on line 16 here, can you just type the word private, lowercase? So whenever we have these methods for accepting params, these are called strong params. They're usually listed as private methods. And yeah, let's run the test one more time. And now we're back to where we were before. So that's all the new content for this lesson. We're going to move into check-ins next. So the check-ins are in they're in the calendar. So first up is going to be with me. It's going to be Angela, Grant, and Austin, and then with Tim, it's going to be James, Danny, and Adike. So we're going to move into those check-ins. I do want you, so we covered all the new content that I wanted to talk about in this lesson plan. There is more content in the lesson. The query params are in there, but they're not like super relevant for this first project. We'll talk about them as we go through the mod. This lesson plan will also walk you through the destroy action as well. And it kind of walks you through the update action, but it gives you some hints as you go. So I'd highly recommend that you all read through this lesson plan and work through it because it'll be very relevant for doing the other stories for your project. And I'm going to drop you the surveys for this class. I'm going to drop you one for the How the Web Works lesson as well, just to kind of get some feedback on, did you like working through it solo? Would you have preferred like actually going through it together? But we don't need to do this on this call. So please just take some time in the next hour to fill that out. Any other questions before we move into check-ins?
I had a question related to the test that we were doing for Create. Should I save that for another time?
Yeah. Let's save like code questions for later. But does anyone have any like logistics questions? Check the calendar, and if you aren't, there are 2 blocks for check-ins. So there's check-ins from now until 12, and then we'll pick them back up in the afternoon.
Real quick, going back to that private thing, when we put private online above the method, does that just mean that like anything below private is considered a private method?
Yeah, anything below that line is private.
Okay.
Now what that actually means, we can talk about that later.
Okay.
All right. Thank you all.